On the outskirts of a forgotten town stands an abandoned house that hides secrets beyond the human mind. A house said to be home to Jinn, creatures that live in the dark, watching, waiting for their next victim. But is the next victim Alex? Or is there something bigger that the Jinn is planning? A story full of mystery and horror, where fear becomes an inescapable reality. Do you dare to enter? Do you dare to enter? If you are a fan of scary stories and mind-bending theories, then you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit the like button to support us and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with all the new and exciting things. Now, get ready, because this story will keep you up all night. Once, on the outskirts of a forgotten town, there stood an ancient, crumbling mansion known only as the House of the Jinn. The house had long been abandoned. Its decaying walls whispered stories of a time when it was full of life. Now, it was a place avoided by all, a silent monument to a curse that no one dared speak about. The locals spoke in hushed tones about the Jinn, beings of shadow and smoke, ancient spirits who lived between the realms of the living and the dead. These creatures, they said, had the power to possess, haunt, and even curse those unlucky enough to cross their path. The house, it was believed, was a portal, a place where the boundary between the world of the living and the supernatural grew thin. And in the darkness of the house, the Jinn waited, watching. Among those who dared to investigate the house was Alex, a young man in his early 30s, with an insatiable curiosity and a deep need to unravel the mysteries of the world. Alex had heard the stories, the rumors of the house's eerie presence, but he was different from the others who simply ran away in fear. He believed that there was a logical explanation for everything, that the supernatural could be explained through science, through reason. But the moment he stepped foot inside the mansion, everything changed. The air was heavy, thick with a chill that seemed to cling to his skin. The walls groaned under the weight of time, and the silence was suffocating. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching him, waiting. The deeper Alex ventured into the mansion, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. There was something unseen, something lurking in the shadows, something that wanted him. Alex had no idea that he had just become a target. The Jinn, as ancient spirits, chose their victims carefully. They were drawn to those who were vulnerable, those whose spirits were fractured, whose minds were clouded with doubt or despair. Alex was the perfect candidate. He had spent years battling his own inner demons, struggling with a past that haunted him, a trauma he couldn't escape. He had always felt like an outsider, disconnected from the world around him. He believed the loneliness he felt was a natural part of life. What he didn't know was that the Jinn could sense it. They could smell his weakness, and they knew the moment he entered the house that he was the one they had been waiting for. The mansion seemed to know his every move, the walls bending and shifting, the shadows growing deeper as he explored. At first, Alex tried to rationalize the strange happenings around him, the flickering lights, the whispers in the dark, the sense of being watched. But soon, the line between reality and nightmare began to blur. He felt cold fingers graze his skin, heard whispers in his ears that no one else could hear. He thought he was losing his mind, but The Jinn were not content with just driving him mad. They wanted more. They thrived on fear, on anguish. The more Alex resisted, the more they tormented him. He found strange symbols carved into the walls of the house, symbols that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. Each room he entered seemed to drain his strength, to pull him further into despair. He couldn't explain why, but he felt as though he was being drawn into a trap, as if there was something in the house that wanted to claim him. As the days passed, Alex became more isolated, his behavior growing erratic. His friends and family, unable to reach him, began to fear the worst. Alex had always been a rational man, but now he was becoming consumed by something far beyond his understanding. His obsession with the mansion deepened, and he began to believe that the Jinn were not just creatures of myth, but that they were real, and that they were after him. The theory was simple. The Jinn had chosen him because he was broken. His pain, his loneliness, and his unresolved trauma were all the things the Jinn thrived on. They fed on the vulnerable, the lost, the ones who had no hope left. But what if Alex wasn't just a victim? What if the Jinn had other plans? The more Alex uncovered about the house, the more he began to question the true nature of the spirits that haunted it. Could it be that the house itself was a prison for the Jinn, a place where they were trapped, forced to feed on the souls of the living to gain power? Or perhaps the Jinn were not merely haunting the house. They were using it as a gateway, a way to cross over into the world of the living, to unleash their terror on anyone who crossed their threshold. As Alex continued to delve deeper into the mystery, he began to piece together fragments of the house's dark history. The house had once been home to a family, wealthy and powerful, who had dabbled in the occult. They had sought to summon the Jinn, believing they could control them and gain eternal power. But the Jinn had turned on them, possessing each member of the family one by one, leaving behind only madness and death. The house had been abandoned, but the curse of the Jinn remained. Alex's discovery didn't bring him relief. It only made things worse. The more he understood about the Jinn, the more trapped he felt. He could feel their presence growing stronger, more malevolent. Every shadow seemed to move on its own, and every whisper seemed to call his name. The Jinn were getting closer, their eyes watching him from every corner of the house. And then, one night, Alex realized the truth. The Jinn weren't just after his soul. They wanted him to become one of them. The theory was horrifying, yet undeniable. The Jinn had been using Alex to bring forth their power. His fear, his torment, was feeding them. But they weren't just waiting for him to die. They were waiting for him to give up, to accept the darkness and become a part of it. They wanted him to join them, to be consumed by the very evil he had tried so hard to resist. Alex knew he couldn't escape. The mansion had already claimed him, and soon his fate would be sealed, as he would join the ranks of those who had come before him, lost forever to the cursed house of the Jinn. As time went on, Alex's disappearance became just another story whispered by those brave enough to venture near the mansion. The curse of the Jinn continued, as it always had, waiting for the next soul to wander too close. And though the house remained silent, its shadows grew darker, ever waiting for the next victim to fall into its grasp.